Modern Australia is famous for its deadly deserts and unique wildlife, but if you step back 100,000 years, the continent looks entirely different. You'd find yourself in a lost world, dominated by roaming giants. To understand the strangest of these creatures, we first need to look at a familiar face, the modern common wombat. It's a stout, burrowing marsupial, usually maxing out around 80 pounds. Now, take that basic anatomy and scale it up to the size of a rhinoceros. This is Diprotodon. Stretching over 3 meters long and weighing nearly 3 tons, it holds the record as the largest marsupial to ever walk the earth. We know this giant existed because they left behind massive skeletons, preserving undeniable proof of a creature that dwarfed nearly everything else in its ecosystem. Living in ancient Australia was not easy. The continent was defined by brutal extremes, swinging violently between seasons of lush abundance and punishing multi-year droughts. In a landscape where sudden lack of water and food wipes out the biggest animals first, this 3-ton plant eater somehow managed to thrive across the continent. So how exactly did Diprotodon pull that off? The answer begins in the deep, mist-filled forests that once stretched across ancient Australia. These dense, prehistoric woodlands offered an endless supply of the one thing a giant needs most: fuel. Diprotodon was built for bulk processing. Using its incredibly broad muzzle and highly specialized teeth, it could consume massive quantities of tough leaves, shrubs, and coarse vegetation every single day. Packing on 3 tons of weight provided a massive secondary benefit. It acted as an almost impenetrable physical defense system. It needed that bulk because the prehistoric shadows were patrolled by lethal predators like Thylacorio, the marsupial lion, equipped with powerful jaws and shearing teeth designed to take down large prey. While the young, the old, and the sick were vulnerable targets, a fully grown, healthy Diprotodon was essentially a walking fortress, its mass making it virtually untouchable. Yet, relying on deep forests wasn't enough. As seasons changed, herds had to push out into the vast open grass plains, revealing the massive biological tax of their enormous size. Maintaining a 3-ton body is incredibly expensive. It demands a relentless, continuous intake of calories and fresh water every single day just to keep the animal's internal engine running. To satisfy that massive appetite, the herds had to keep moving. Their entire survival strategy relied on nomadic migration to outpace localized droughts and exhausted food supplies. By tracing seasonal shifts, they charted sweeping routes across the continent, moving predictably from one shrinking water source to the next, carving deep tracks into the earth as they traveled. The prehistoric landscape could support them, but it offered absolutely zero margin for error. If a herd stopped moving, or if they arrived at a waterhole that had dried up, they would starve. The Titans' reign over Australia was powerful, but incredibly fragile. Their existence was a tightrope walk of endless consumption and constant motion. Tens of thousands of years ago, the environment turned against them. The climate rapidly began to dry out, transforming lush forests into harsh, arid scrub. The shift brought brutal, prolonged droughts. Ancient waterholes shrank and vanished entirely, permanently fracturing the migratory routes the herds depended on. Right around the same time, an entirely new variable entered the ecosystem. The first human populations arrived, stepping into a world filled with giant marsupials. Suddenly, Australia's megafauna were caught in a vice. They faced simultaneous pressures of a collapsing climate and an intelligent, tool-using apex predator. For Diprotodon, this dual threat triggered a systemic breakdown. Their core strategy of relentless migration collapsed when the distant water sources simply weren't there. This chart illustrates the biological crisis. The top line represents Diprotodon's massive daily requirement for calories and water. The bottom line represents the rapidly dropping availability of those resources. As that gap widens, starvation and severe dehydration set in. The sheer bulk that once acted as a shield against prehistoric lions was completely useless against a changing climate and human hunters. The weakened, slow-moving giants became incredibly vulnerable. Their greatest evolutionary advantage had turned into a fatal liability. The 3-ton body they could no longer feed became a trap they couldn't escape. Today, scientists are still debating the exact cause of their extinction, trying to determine the balance of human hunting pressure versus sudden climate collapse. Regardless of the exact ratio, the outcome was absolute. The herds vanished, leaving behind nothing but fossilized bones buried in the dry red earth. Many remains are found in desolate areas like these modern salt lakes, the ghosts of ancient freshwater oases where the last thirsty herds likely gathered. Diprotodon leaves us with a stark reminder. In nature, sheer size does not guarantee survival. When a world changes overnight, the biggest are often the first to fall.